it's your girl Jaymie and your favorite Scorpio as fuck astrologer. Today I wanted to come on here and share a little bit more about the services that I offer because I've gotten a lot of questions about it. And even though I do list my services, I know that I offer a lot of readings that are really different and unusual. So I thought I'd come on here and kind of break down exactly what it is that I offer, why I offer it, and specifically what you can expect to get out of the type of readings that I offer. So for those of you guys who don't know, I'm a Scorpio as fuck astrologer and I'm the creator of Jaymie as fuck Astro. I've been trained in ancient and modern astrology, and I find that combining these two elements of blending the ancient wisdom and the modern innovation is the best way to maximize what astrology has to offer, because we do live in a modern world. So understanding astrology with the modern concepts is very relevant to the modern times, including the modern planets and things of that nature. But also, modern astrology is derived from ancient astrology. So in order to truly understand astrology, I find it extremely valuable and essential to understand the origin story behind that. And so I love to combine both of those things, and I find that it's really important because there are some concepts, and as you learn more about different types of astrology, there are certain beliefs in certain branches and certain techniques of astrology where there are certain there are certain ideas, and they're very relevant to the beliefs that existed during those cultural times. And now some of those beliefs aren't necessarily applicable and relevant in this modern world. So for example, there are some planets that are considered malefic, and in certain ways they are, but part of that is because when astrology was first created during ancient times, people's mortality rate was much shorter. People weren't living past the age of 20 and 30, which doesn't apply to us. So I think that it's really important to make a cultural time relevant discernment when it comes to doing astrology. I've also been trained in medical astrology and horary astrology. As far as my ancient astrology, it's been primarily Vedic astrology, some Babylonian, and then Western astrology. So that's some of the insights that I put together. And what I find is when I look at a chart, I'm able to identify what branch and style of astrology is better suited. I like to kind of think of it like with different outfits. Certain people, like there might be a dress that's beautiful, but if it doesn't fit you, it's incompatible to you. So I take a look at what is going to be the most useful, what system is going to be best custom tailored to support you. That's a huge thing for me. Now, if you have checked out my services online, you've probably already seen this, and there's just a quick little intro about what it is that I offer. And then I go into, I believe, the 10 different types of services that I offer. And this is just like a taste of what astrology can teach you, and here are some of the things that I answer in readings. I tell you the best way for you to navigate your life. This is so important because we live in a world that's standardized, and so people are instructed and encouraged to do things in a certain way, and it doesn't work for everyone. There's 4 different elements, there's 12 different signs, and so if you're trying to use a system that's incompatible to you, that's why it's not working. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. And so that's what I love about astrology, is that you're able to identify what's truly best and sustainable for you. So I'm going to be talking about how to get started and take action with sustainable habits. The best way for you to set, maintain, and achieve your goals. And this starts from recognizing the environment and the circumstances that's going to promote and encourage you to take action. The environment that allows you to maintain habits. What are the challenges that show up? How can you redirect that? What continues to support you and inspire you? The best way for you to manage your finances. The most lucrative way for you to achieve financial wealth. Those are different areas. We're talking about, for example, the best budgeting style that's going to work with your habits, your karma, your lifestyle, your mindset. What's actually sustainable, the best way for you to achieve financial gains. For some people, it might be real estate. Some people, it's investments. For other people, it's business. It really does depend on different areas of your life, who you are, what your karma is. So those are things that I cover. I also discuss your ideal learning style, your platform, and the environment And I also sometimes include the archetypes of the teachers that you're meant to learn from, so that you can identify what is the most effective, optimal learning environment for you. The best way for you to communicate and collaborate with others. What are you meant to learn in this lifetime? What kind of collaborations are you supposed to have? This is very Mercury, which is a vocational planet. And also, I am putting together a course called Learn Your Way with Mercury, where I cover all of these things, as well as the relationships that you have with friends and siblings and your karma, what it means to have Mercury in every house and every sign, and all of these different things. Because I feel like sometimes people are understanding these things, and then you experience challenges, as well as like, what's difficult for you? How can you improve comprehension? All of these things I do cover in that course, Learn Your Way with Mercury. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And I also talk about your ideal home environment. And this is the environment that you grew up in. This can also be related to your past lives, because we're talking about homes. That's not just in this incarnation, but your family, your origin story, where you were, where you came from before you came into this world. Some people have a chart that's more karmic, and focusing on the past lives is really important. Some people have a chart that's more earth-based, and it's very material and grounded in this reality. But this is also very much the area of your life where I would be looking at your family dynamics. Specifically, this can be something related to, like, your chart may have a greater significance of family karma to process. I would look at the access of the parents, the 4th and 10th house. What have you inherited? Is there something to be discussing in relation to DNA epigenetics? What are you here to resolve? What are some karmic lessons? What have you inherited from your parents or your grandparents? I have been trained in family karma and karmic astrology, so these are things that I do explore if your chart shows that this is a really significant thing to focus on. And I'm also going to be covering your ideal work environment, your career success, your professional industry, and are you meant to be an entrepreneur? This is something that I think is really important now more than ever, especially with so many people being diagnosed with ADD. And I don't remember specifically what the statistic is, but I think I want to say, like, if you have ADD, you have a 300 or 500% more likeliness to start to become an entrepreneur. Like, it's an insanely high amount of number, and yet 90% of businesses fail. And it's of my personal opinion that the reason why that's happening is that people are trying to build a business in a way that's not sustainable for ADD, something that doesn't work for who you specifically are. And so I think understanding what works for you, what are your challenges, what are some solutions, specifically because if you do have an entrepreneur mindset, if you do have ADD, then, and whether you've been diagnosed or not, there are certain things that tell you what works best for you, what doesn't. And it's important and to be honest with yourself. It's better to work with yourself rather than against yourself. And it's not sustainable to try to force yourself to do something that's actually not going to be workable for you. So it's all about coming up with a solution. And I think that this is so important. No matter what astrologer you work with, having a diverse knowledge of astrology, I think, is so important, because every person's chart is unique. Every individual has a very specific process. But even more so, I feel like specifically when it comes to being an entrepreneur and you want to try something new, like, it's really important to have a solution-oriented mindset. If you're working with an astrologer that has a fixed mindset, they can narrate what's going on in your chart, but at the end of the day, like, you already know who you are. You know what your strengths are. You already know what your challenges are. Like, do you really want to pay someone to tell you about yourself? Like, I believe that, like, when it comes to astrology readings, it's really important for the clients to feel fulfilled, like, for you to have information, things that you didn't know, things you did know. I mean, if you're already on your shit, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be familiar, but also, what are the challenges? No matter, even if you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, there are areas in your life where there's a blind spot for you. So a competent, skilled astrologer with a growth mindset is going to be able to recognize, okay, like, this is the best way for you to do things, instead of just being stuck with, here are your challenges and that's it. No, it's all about finding usable, sustainable, solution-oriented approaches that are sustainably successful specifically for you. And that's something that is really important to me, regardless of the type of chart that I provide for you. Or even if you're just watching my astrology videos. And I also discussed your ideal fitness routine, the best diet and nutritional approach for you, because I have been trained as a medical astrologer. And this is something I've been thinking about. Because I don't have a medical background, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to offer this as a service. But I have provided readings for doctors, nurses, NP, physician's aid in different countries, because medicine is taught differently in different parts of the world, because it's highly politicized and there are financial considerations, political considerations. And what I've discovered is through doing these readings, I've had so many people who are medical experts say, like, you should do this professionally. So it's something that I'm considering. I don't have anything particularly specific yet, but there are general insights that I do provide in my readings in this area. I also provide insights about the best relationships for you and your love lessons. I specifically have a really unique reading called a Saturnian love story, which I'm super happy to tell you about, because I feel like it's a really unique and sustainable way to read charts, because my whole thing is I want the charts that I provide you with to be useful for your entire life. And so I created a reading that's designed specifically to do that. No matter how many relationships you go through, where you are in your life, this is the kind of reading that's going to help you continuously. I also provide the best way for you to process traumas. I feel like this is so important in this world of content pollution. There are so many people that are overstimulated, and there's all these amazing resources, and people are like, oh, this is what worked for me. And then people get really excited and they invest all this money and time and effort and energy, and then they get discouraged because they didn't get the right results. But really, it's because you're probably using a system that's incompatible to you. So I did also post a video on this in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, so please check it out. It's called The Best Way for You to Process Your Traumas Using Astrology. So I do give some recommendations. Now, of course, those are generalized readings, so it's not going to be as precise as getting a personal reading from me, but it does give you some insights on the direction that you can take. I also talk about the best way for you to deepen your spiritual and religious connection, your challenges, and the best way to work through them. And that's what I was mentioning when it comes to making sure that you work with an astrologer that has a solution-oriented mindset and has a growth mindset and can provide you with insights. And also I discuss the experiences and karmic themes and purpose of your incarnation and the lessons that you're meant to learn in this lifetime. So that's just sort of an idea of some of the things that I cover in your chart. Now, I do have a number of different readings. The first one that I want to talk about, which I would say is the most personalized reading, it's sort of like if you go and see a massage therapist and you tell them, hey, you know what, I want you to use your expertise and tell me which massage technique is going to be the best for me. This is literally the one. And so if you're unsure, I can look at your chart and I can identify these are the most important areas of your chart to discuss. And with every reading that I provide, in addition to my reading, I also provide recommendations and follow-ups, other ways that I can help you, other readings if you're interested in, as well as other ways that you can continue your journey in your self-growth. So it doesn't necessarily have to be working with me, but it can be book recommendations or specific modality that's going to be best for you that's indicated in your chart. So it's not just like, you got the information and that's it. So this first one is Love Who You Are reading, which is the traditional, the classic natal chart reading where I look at your placements and I tell you pretty much essentially, it's an overview, a sampler of everything that I mentioned, and really there's going to be special focus on what is going to be most important to focus on in your chart. Some people have a huge theme of finances. Sometimes it's about family. Sometimes it's about karma in your past lives. Sometimes it's about being a collaborator. It's your profession. And if you're not sure, this reading is really going to be able to show all of that. And then I have the Brainstorm Wild Card, which is something that really inspired me because I live in LA. There's a lot of creative souls in LA. We're talking about artists and actors and musicians, and people have these very unique, one-of-a-kind idea, and these charts have these very specific combinations. In astrology, there's something called aspects, and these aspects essentially tell you how the different planets interact with you, how they support each other, the challenges that show up, and the different ways that your life can unfold. And there's a set of aspects that are considered major and minor. And so the major aspects are known to be more mainstream and more important, and then the minor aspects are considered to be less significant. And the thing is, in the US, there is a narrower selection of what's considered to be major aspects. Whereas in other countries, they're like, oh no, there's other aspects that are so much more important. And then in addition to that, there are some charts that, because we live in a world that doesn't prioritize creativity as much, and it might be less common in charts, there's not a lot of emphasis on the aspects that promote and really indicate like really unique creative energy. And there's just a huge like presence of that in LA, and there's astrologers who aren't trained to properly understand that and provide readings. And so if you haven't been trained in that, there's a lot of people that are getting readings that are getting overlooked because they're not understanding the method that's the best for them. And this is why I created this chart where I can really sit down and be like, what do you want to do? You know, maybe it's someone who is a singer and wants to offer custom songs, or maybe you're an artist and you want to have a very niche service of working in, I don't know, like a cruise, and you offer specific services for the people who are on that cruise. And maybe you do painting and art that's related to wherever you're traveling to, and it's very organic, and in that moment maybe you have some sort of art that's related to manifestation. There's art or music that's like a mantra that helps people to achieve their goals. Who knows? There's a lot of really unique ways to go about this, and I've come across so many amazing people. And so that's why I felt inspired to create this Brainstorm Wild Card reading, where if you have a very specific idea, or you want to do something creative with your gifts and you want some ideas, what's going to work? What are some ideas? I am literally such a good brainstormer. At one point I was a mindset coach, and before I realized that astrology is what I truly wanted to do, I honestly considered the idea of offering my services as a brainstormer, because I come up with so many different ideas. And with astrology, it's relevant to what actually works for you. So I'm super excited about that one. And I also have one for career success designed for you. And that one was something that I really wanted to offer because I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I've been a freelancer and an employee. And so I'm familiar with the different types of work dynamics, and to be able to look at a person's chart and recognize what's best for you professionally is so important, because we do live in a world where like money is important. And honestly, where you live and where you work are probably the two places that you'll spend the most time at. We put so much time and energy at work. Really finding out what's best for you can really be, it's so important for your emotional, psychological, spiritual, physical, energetic health and well-being, and in order to feel fulfilled. Now, I've got a couple of charts that are specifically for Scorpios and Pisces. And this is because when you have strong water in your chart, there's an element of invisibility. So what I've noticed is that some astrologers aren't able to see that invisible element, and that's very much the case with Scorpios. So I have a reading called Heal Your Shit, and this is specifically designed for strong Scorpios, sun, moon, rising. If you have a stellium, which is when you have a cluster of planets, so when you have 3 or more planets in a single zodiac sign, you take on the energy of that sign, and it becomes a significant area of your life. And the stellium doesn't have to necessarily be in Scorpio, and there is a specialized way that you have to look at charts when it comes to stelliums, which I have been trained in. But specifically, when it comes to Scorpio, there's this theme of trauma triggers, trauma exposure, trauma processing, trauma healing. And it's something that the stronger your Scorpio is, it's a water sign. Water signs represent confusion, especially with Scorpio. It's ruled by Mars, which is a fiery planet, and yet it's a water sign, and the water is frozen. So it's hard to kind of see through things. And when you're experiencing these traumas, Scorpios are a lot more predisposed to want to process it because it's harder to escape it, and so it's easier to work through it. But a lot of the recommendations, they're not really designed to support Scorpios. And so I've seen so many people, myself included, I have a Scorpio stellium, that's why I'm a Scorpio as fuck astrologer, try methods and it just doesn't work because the things that exist that are generalized aren't designed for you. And so I wanted to offer a reading for all of the people who genuinely want to commit and want to learn and grow, are passionate about it, but you honestly don't know how to do that. And so I literally break it down because Scorpio is the most complex sign. Scorpio is the only sign that can transmute its elements from water to fire. And in my personal opinion, it's the sign that has access to all of the elements because it magnetizes resources, other people's resources. That's earth energy. And it's very strategic, which is an air sign. So it's a lot of these amazing elements, and it's represented by 3 different archetypes that you can evolve into, from a scorpion to a rising phoenix to a dragon. And if you want to learn more about that, keep an eye out for my video where I talk about that. It's really fascinating. Wherever Scorpio is in your chart, this is an area where there's a lot of transformation, going down rabbit holes, complexity. Scorpio is the most fascinating sign to me. And so I do definitely go into that. I just feel like there's just so much there to unpack. I also have a course called How to Prepare for Success. And this is a reading that's designed specifically for people of color. Because in the world of white privilege, we live in a world where there's certain things that come easier in proximity to your whiteness. And, let's be real, I have light skin privilege, but there are challenges that people of color face, and specifically with our culture and the trauma that we've inherited from our ancestral lineage, there's extra challenges. There are different things that I think are important to consider and read in your chart. How much of the challenges that you have when it comes to things that you want to do to be successful, the things that are getting in the way, how much of those challenges are coming from your ancestral lineage. You're carrying the pain and the struggles of your ancestors. And there's something to work through. And the more trauma you've experienced as a person of color, we have a very specific traumas, and our nervous system operates differently. So I do combine a combination of family karma, ancestral karma, medical astrology into this type of reading, cultural, psychological considerations, because sometimes it's not just about being told this is what you need to do to be successful. You can be told this is what you need to do, but there are extra steps that people of color have to go through in order to feel safe, in order to regulate your nervous system, in order for things to progress further. Because part of your journey, I've noticed this with a lot of charts that I've read with people of color, is that it's not just about doing things for you, it's about working through the karma of your ancestors. That takes a different approach to reading your chart that I explore in How to Prepare for Success. And the Saturnian love story is probably one of my most unique charts that I offer. This is my version of a relationship chart, but here's the thing. I use Saturn because even though in relationships, Venus is the planet that's often looked at, and of course I look at that planet as well, so many people get frustrated and they're like, why haven't I experienced success in relationships? Why do I keep failing? And when you do stuff like that, it's because there's a mistake that you're making that needs to be corrected. There's something that you're being blocked from, some karmic lesson that you're meant to learn so that you can have a successful relationship. These are things that are ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is a friend of Venus. So when you use Saturn to understand the best relationships for you to have, it just opens things up so much. And so this is the type of reading that I do. I look at charts that are a little bit different from what other people do. And because I'm committed and I want this reading to be useful for the rest of your life, I only take a look at your chart specifically because so many of the choices that we make, the partners that we choose, are largely influenced by what we learned about with our expectation and our subconscious and conscious beliefs that we inherited from what we saw in our caregivers, our parents, and what relationships we've been exposed to before our analytical minds have developed. And so a lot of times people will pick partners that your healed version of you wouldn't necessarily pick because you're trauma bonding. Oftentimes it's because your unfulfilled inner child wants to receive that love and support that you didn't get from your caregivers. And so then you create this same scenario. And what happens is you're like, oh, okay, my inner child didn't get this need met because of the type of parent that, or that caregiver that didn't give me this because this was their mindset, this was their personality, this was the reason why they couldn't give me what I needed and wanted, we may not consciously be aware of that, but on some subliminal level, we are aware of that. So then we seek out partners that are that same replica and that same flavor. So we want these needs met, but we're choosing partners that are unable to provide that for the same and very similar reasons why our caregivers weren't able to provide that. So then you never really get that need fulfilled, and then you continue to recycle that, and you continue to trauma bond, and you continue to find the same pattern. And this is why in your 5th house, this is the part of your chart that you look at in order to figure out who you're romantically interested in, your flirting style, who you're in love with, who you date, who you're attracted to. While your 7th house is about your marriage. And this is why sometimes who you're attracted to and who you end up marrying, they're not necessarily the same. And it can be because once you work through your traumas, the type of person that you're interested in may not look the same as the person you kept choosing when you were trauma bonding. And because a lot of these things are inherited beliefs and they're related to our parents, I also look at the parent house axis of the 4th and 10th house. And I also discuss, like, what I do is I talk about who you're interested in, why you're interested in it, where this comes from, and I provide the archetypes of the favorable qualities of your ideal romantic partners, and then the problematic qualities and where that comes from, why you choose that, other ways that you can find fulfillment, and how you can redirect that energy in a different way so that you can start to make healthier choices, and that'll lead to a successful relationship. And that way you can discern for yourself if the person that you're with is the best partner for you. And that way you feel empowered and you become self-aware, and you're able to really look at things yourself. And that's a very like Saturnian style, because Saturn is kind of like an independent planet, which is usually not how romantic relationship charts are read. But I really love this approach. I feel like it really opens you up, and I've never seen anyone do this, and I just feel like, why aren't people doing it? It makes so much sense. Like, astrology is ruled by Scorpio, which is very psychological, going down the rabbit hole. It's very independent. It's ruled by Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn and also very independent. In ancient astrology, it's ruled by Mercury. It's about making connections. And astrologers are ruled by Sagittarius, which is a fire sign and very independent. So I personally really love this, and I'm very excited to provide that reading. I always have a lot of fun with it. And I also have one specifically for parents. This one is called What Every Child Deserves. And this one has a special place in my heart because as a Cancer rising, children, family, parent, that kind of dynamic is a theme that's really important to me. And specifically because I ran away from home when I was 12, and I've been in foster care and group homes. And so I understand the struggle and the pain intimately on what it means to have parents where there's like a lot of complications and pain and all of that. And I don't want to see other children go through that. So this reading is designed specifically for parents who are interested in getting their children's charts read. So I look at your children's chart, I look at what your children needs are, what's going to help them to thrive, their emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual, energetic needs, their nutritional needs, the challenges that they have, the best way to communicate with them, what's most going to support them, all of that. Because we don't always know what's best for another person, and we may think that we're helping them because of the way we understand things, and it may not necessarily be the best for the child. And so I really wanted to be able to advocate and to support both the children and the parents through this beautiful journey through this reading. I also have a reading called You're a Badass Energy Bitch. And this one, for those of you guys who have been my coaching clients, this is an adaptation of a course that I had specifically for empaths. And this is the astrology version, and I am also creating an astrology course version of this, but this is specifically for empaths and people who struggle with boundaries, and it's not necessarily limited to Pisces. but I created this with Pisces in mind. So if you're a Pisces sun, moon, rising, if you have a strong Neptune, a strong 12th house, if you struggle with boundaries, if you are an empath, and you want to find tools on the best way to manage your energy, this chart is especially useful because Pisces is the sign of confusion, and Pisces dissolves energy. It's represented by a fish that can't talk. It doesn't have hands that can block itself. It doesn't have legs that can run away. And that's why Pisces is the sign that's associated with being a victim. But it doesn't mean that Pisces are victims. In fact, Pisces is the last sign, so it embodies all of the other zodiac signs. So really, it's like 12 signs in one. That's fucking badass, honestly. But if you don't know how to use this energy, which it's understandable that there's this confusion that takes place, because honestly, it is the sign of confusion. And when it comes to setting boundaries, you have to articulate things. And sometimes that can be really difficult for a Pisces. And so I look at your chart and I look at where your challenges are, how you could redirect that. What's the best way to establish this energetic boundary? What is the best way to practice it and standardize it within you? And all of these different things. And this is something that's so important to me because what inspired me to create a course in my coaching business is because I saw so many empaths say, protect your energy, protect your energy. And I really wasn't a fan of that, because that's very much a trauma response approach. I'm not saying it's not helpful, it's just that you don't always need to protect yourself. And if you need to, it's very helpful, and sometimes it's better than to not protect yourself, but sometimes you don't need to protect yourself. Sometimes it's about maintaining it. Sometimes it's about enforcing it. Sometimes it's you don't need to do it. And so I want people to evolve beyond just having to protect yourself. Like that is like, you're protecting yourself because you're getting attacked. Well, you don't have to position yourself in that sort of a way. You can change the energy around. And there are indicators on the best way for you to do that in your chart. And I'm happy to share this. And I love doing this because being a Pisces myself, I personally have always had really good boundaries, and it's indicated in my chart. In my sun is in Pisces. It's in the 9th house, which means that it's in planetary joy. I have positive aspects to it. And even though having boundary challenges is a common theme with Pisces, the thing is that with me, I have indicators in my chart that I've had practice mastering this in multiple incarnations. So I understand it, and I am able to articulate it and provide resources. And a lot of times when it comes to water signs and areas where there's invisibility, not everyone understands how to really like see that invisible energy. And it's something that I'm very well equipped to do because of my chart. And so I'm happy to share this. These are some really interesting, unique readings that I feel like is so absolutely essential. And I hope that you'll find value. And if you're inclined to get a reading with me, please do. I listed my services, and I do have a spot where you can book a session with me. Now, actually I have one more service that I offer. This is called an Astro Clock. And this is a clock. You can turn your birth chart into a clock, and depending on your placement, it tells you the best activities for you to do at certain times of the day. So you have all these like goal setting experts and strategists say you want to exercise first thing in the morning. Honestly, that may not be the best thing for you to do. You got some people saying do the hardest things first when you have the most energy. And some people are like, start off small and build up to it so you don't fatigue yourself. But really, like, the more you research this, the more you start seeing contradictions, and the more there are reasons why it works, and the more there are reasons why it doesn't work. So it's really about figuring out what's actually best for you. So with this Astro Clock, I'm able to break that down so you're able to make informed, astrologically strategic decisions so that you could have a more productive life and plan your day accordingly. Now, I do want to specify that this one is a little bit generalized, so it's a more affordable price point, but the specific planets and combination does vary with you, so you're not going to get the same deep level of personalized insight, but you'll still get an idea in a sense of what'll work for you. So it's a great asset to have in your chart, so you're not working against yourself. So definitely, if any of this resonates with you, please book a session with me. All of my readings are either going to be in a pre-recorded video, which is going to be an hour long and or minimum, and or it's going to be an at least 10-page PDF. And these are the minimums, and I say this because depending on more complicated and complex your chart is, the longer the reading is, the more extensive that it's going to be. So that is something to consider. And the reason why I offer these two different modalities is because I'm considering the delivery and the format that's going to be the best for you. And that's why I make the decision to decide which one is best. Because for some of you guys, you may be like, you know what, like video readings are what I really do best with. And yet, when you consider both of our energy, it may actually show up that when it comes to what I deliver, a PDF may be better. Specifically, someone who is a strong Virgo is that you're meant to be an eternal student. And so if I do a written PDF and you print it out and you're highlighting and you're taking notes and stuff, it's almost like a school curriculum and you're reading a book. So that written record can actually be a little bit better. Whereas if you're a Scorpio stellium, I notice that I tend to do videos instead. Or for Pisces, I tend to do videos instead. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. It really does depend. I consider what your needs are and how my energy influences that, as well as what's going on in the transit right now. Because when you're watching this video, when it's being created, has an impact. So I want to make sure that the quality of reading that I give you is going to be the most effective, the most digestible, the easiest for you. And I keep this in mind when I create these readings. I love doing this, and I want to thank you for those of you guys who are interested and have invested in my reading. If you'd like to book a reading with me, if you want to get a gift certificate and provide a reading for a loved one, for your sibling, your friends, your neighbors, your partners, or if you specifically have like someone like a business partner, you can definitely do that. And I am putting together a Design Your Life Your Way one-day retreat specifically for LA locals, and that one is going to be for a group of 5 people. So if you have 5 close friends, loved ones, family members, and you want to know like the best way for you to design your life, whether this is a family, friends, a bunch of you guys living together, whether it's a business and stuff, and you want to figure out what is the best way to do this, I do have that available to LA locals, and either I can come to your space, or there is a space that I do know of and I can give you that address on demand. So if that's something that you're interested in, it's custom tailored to your needs. So please reach out, let me know what your interests are. There is going to be a requirement of 5 people, and it's going to be anywhere between 5 to 8 people, just because I want to make sure that I'm able to look at everyone's chart thoroughly. So I'm super excited about that. And because it's going to take a few hours, there are going to be some refreshments, beverages, and meals and stuff as well, either whether it's a light snack or something to munch on. Because of course, all of this stuff, it's going to take in energy. And so I want to make sure that you guys are in the best state in order to integrate with this information. Thanks so much for watching my video. And if you have any further questions, you feel free to comment below and check out my services. I am sure you probably already know, but I have a YouTube channel. I just launched a new blog as well. So definitely go on there and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and have a wonderful day. Bye.